Cheers. Hello, hello. Here's a question. Is it a sacrilege? Is it a sacrilege if I say I want Philadelphia to win? I think Philadelphia will win, but I don't know that they're going to cover. And therefore, can I take Washington, but still hoping for a Philadelphia victory? What I'm talking about is all the football action tomorrow. Thank you, Bet Parks in Pennsylvania, New Jersey and Maryland, Play Gun Lake app in Michigan. They've got you covered for what an exciting day tomorrow will be. 3 p.m. here in Philly. The Birds are a 6-point home fave in the conference championship hosting Washington. The over-under is 47.5. So what if I think Philadelphia wins? What if I want Philadelphia to win, but I think it's going to be closer? Therein lies the question. Sunday, 6:30, Kansas City, 6:30 Eastern time. KC is a 2-point home fave hosting Buffalo. I hope it's Buffalo. I hope it's Philadelphia and Buffalo. As much as I want to see Philadelphia in the big game, I hope it's not Philadelphia and KC. I mean, I'll take Philadelphia in anything. But I like some new blood, and I feel like Buffalo is similar to Philadelphia in that it's a city of hard knocks in many respects and doesn't get its just due. I feel that way about Cleveland as well. So I'm for all those sort of former Rust Belt industrial towns that don't get the credit that they deserve. And I would love to see Philly and Buffalo. But in terms of what I'm going to do with Parks Casino, I think I'm going to take Washington, wanting Philly, but not thinking Philly's going to cover, and Buffalo. Buffalo with the 2 points. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. Right now, Philly's the favorite. A $25 wager on the Birds to win it all pays $47.25, or I would say only $47.25 in comparison to the other wagers. If you bet $25 on Washington and that hits, meaning they win it all, that pays $200. Whether your team scores or not, there's always a way to have some fun, get some skin in the game. The Bet Parks online casino and sportsbook app, Play Gun Lake app in Michigan, the only ones that I ever use. They are terrific. Have some skin in the game. BetParks.com, PlayGunLake.com for details. Got to be 21 and in PA, NJ, or Maryland for Bet Parks. 21 and in Michigan for Play Gun Lake. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Go Birds is what I say. It was one more thing about football and Philadelphia tomorrow is that as I drove into Center City today, for me, this early Saturday morning, what was really neat was to see the tallest buildings in town bathed in green. They all have this advanced lighting now that allows them with the flip of a switch. It only used to be the Pico building. Remember what a big thing it was, the Pico building at about 24th and Chestnut? Would that be Chestnut? Yeah, I think it would be Chestnut, or would it be fronting on Walnut? But the point is, there used to be like one building in town with a digital message, like, oh, that's really cool. They put the Eagles up there. Trust me, you're going to see this on television tomorrow night. All the buildings in Center City are bathed in green, which is really cool. Okay, so poll question. That's what I promised to discuss. The poll question today at Smerconish.com. I tweaked it this morning. I went to bed last night knowing what I wanted the subject matter to be, but concerned that I'd come up with a question that no matter how hard I tried was going to be in the category of 80-20, which I really don't want. I want a question about the J6ers and about Trump's treatment of the J6ers. As I've been saying on radio, I think that, this whirlwind of a week that he has just had has largely been successful for him. I watched last night the events in Los Angeles, Governor Gavin Newsom being there to greet President Trump when he came off the staircase at LAX. I don't know whether Newsom was invited, but he was there like Trump. He's got a mind for the spotlight. I like them being together. I like Trump going to that community meeting and sitting next to Karen Bass, who is the mayor and has really been under fire. What I don't like, and he just can't help himself, He wasn't able to help himself in North Carolina, and he couldn't help himself in California. The thing that makes me cringe, just at a moment where I find myself giving him props and saying, how great that immediately upon taking office, he went to North Carolina, and on the same day, he went to Los Angeles. And just when I find myself giving him credit for that, then he starts talking about election results and talking about, North Carolina, I guess he won by, I should look it up. I think he won by 3. And California, he lost by 20. And just as he said, it bothered me about TikTok as well. When he was talking about what he was going to do when he came into office relative to TikTok, he noted that he drew great support from young Americans. Therefore, he might have to do something for TikTok. And in North Carolina, he starts talking about all the support that he had down there. And then he goes to California and he talks about some of the support that he had in California. And just to close the loop on this, there's no recognition on his part that he's been elected to serve everybody. My quarrel, if you were tuned into the radio program on Tuesday, my quarrel with the inaugural address was that there wasn't a single thing in it, not a single thing in it for the half of the country that didn't vote for him. And it's like, okay, the young people put me here. I'm going to save TikTok. Okay, North Carolina voted for me. I'm going to quickly go to North Carolina and get them aid. Oh, California didn't vote for me. I'm going to go out there, but I'm going to condition the relief on voter ID, which is just insane. I think everybody ought to have an ID to vote. But when people are grieving and they've lost their house, no, just help them. Just help them. Just help them. Okay, sorry. So that was the end of the whirlwind week. And then last night, I also saw as J.D. Vance, Vice President Vance, came in and was the tiebreaker for Pete Hegseth. Pete Hegseth is going to be sworn in as Defense Secretary this morning. I think it's going to happen while I'm on air for CNN. Here's a question. The fact that Hegseth needed the tiebreaker, that doesn't bode well, I don't think, for Robert F. Kennedy Jr. or Tulsi Gabbard. But they're each individually different, so maybe I'm wrong. Anyway, I'm giving Trump credit for hitting the ground running. He came into office 8 years ago without a plan and without a team and surrounded by people that he didn't even know, my generals, and none of them lasted. This time, he's had a lot of time in the wilderness to think about what he wanted to do. Again, I'm not asking you to accept any of the initiatives that he put into action through executive order. I'm making a different point. We'll come back to that in a moment. We'll talk about the propriety of these things. But what I'm saying is, in contrast to 8 years ago, he hit the ground running. From all those executive orders on day one, and the people around him and the team that he knows and they know him. He knows these personalities and they are loyal to him. Totally different from last time. And last time, if you remember, Chris Christie was in charge of the transition, and whatever he had prepared in advance of Trump winning, they threw out the window, and Christie didn't even get a gig because Christie had prosecuted Jared Kushner's father. And in the end, Trump wouldn't let him in the administration. And I think that's one of the reasons why Christie was so bitter in opposition to Trump in this cycle. But this time, and you can say Project, 2025, certainly the people involved in a lot of that planning, they had an agenda and they are executing it. And the much of it might not withstand legal challenge, birthright citizenship knocked down by a Reagan-appointed judge. But I think this has set a new standard. Whomever follows Donald Trump, a Democrat, because if it's J.D. Vance being sworn into office in 2029 after the 2008 election, I don't know that J.D. Vance is going to need to sign so many executive orders on day one. But if it's a Democrat, if it's Gavin Newsom, just to go back to where I was a moment ago, the standard has now been set by Donald Trump that you better be active, or people are going to think that you're too passive as a commander in chief. And as I reflect on the things that Trump did in the last 5 days, Nothing's a surprise. Nothing is a surprise except the J6ers, because he said he was going to apply a case-by-case basis, and he didn't. And I think it runs the risk, for reasons that I said on radio yesterday and I'll say on television today, I think it runs the risk of coming back to haunt him. I think he's going to rue the day that he gave blanket protection to all the J6ers. It's wrong on the merits. I think that these individuals are not going to go quietly into that night. They've already been active. One of them now subject to a court order of not being, I guess it's Stuart Rhodes, can't come back to the Capitol because a judge entered an order so offended that immediately upon being released from jail, that's what he done. Recidivism follows people who've had entanglements with the law. Now, maybe in this case, they're older and they don't have rap sheets that you would typically see, but somebody's getting locked up again, right? And the biggest reason that it's a problem is that Trump has now empowered not only the J6ers, but also people who agree with the J6ers. There's I have this in the newsletter today, but this is the way that it looks in print. It's a New York Times op-ed by Brendan Ballou, identified as a lawyer who worked at the Department of Justice for 5 years. He resigned on Thursday. So a prosecutor of J6 defendants. And the headline tells you all you need to know about his perspective. I prosecuted the Capitol rioters. They've never been more dangerous. A key line or two from this essay. The effect, and I believe the purpose of these pardons, says this prosecutor, is to encourage vigilantes and militias loyal to the president, but unaccountable to the government. Further along, there is great value to him in having members of these groups released, doubly loyal to him and eager to carry out his agenda and silence his critics through violence. Mr. Trump has shown his willingness to use his pardon power, and little stops him from doing so again. Now, to go back to where I began, when I went to bed last night, the poll question that I had spec'd out was, is President Trump's blanket pardon of January 6 participants a strategic move to strengthen his political base, or a misstep that will backfire? And I thought that's going to generate an 80-20, and people would say backfire. And also, as pointed out by my friend Peter Meltzer, both could be true. It could be strategic on Trump's part, and it could backfire. So with a hat tip to Peter, I have gone in a different direction in terms of today's poll question that I think is more worthy of a divide, different opinions. So here it is. Would Trump's January 6 pardons have been defensible if limited to participants who did not commit any violence? And I think a yes vote is appropriate in that instance. If we were not talking about the violent, I mean, the Fraternal Order of Police, the largest national police union that has supported Donald Trump in his 3 presidential elections, they came out with a statement against him. Quote, crimes against law enforcement are not just attacks on individuals or public safety. They are attacks on society, and they undermine the rule of law. Allowing those convicted of these crimes to be released early diminishes accountability and devalues the sacrifices made by courageous law enforcement officers and their families. Who could argue with that? But if it were Donald Trump coming in and saying, hey, for people who've now served 3.5 years and they weren't violent, I'm cutting them slack, I don't think it would be an issue. So it's been a week where so much he's tried to do so much on DEI and on TikTok, and there are only 2 genders, and I'm going to end FEMA. Last night they fired 17 inspectors general. They've started deportations, although Mexico wouldn't accept a military transport, which is interesting. Birthright citizenship. Did I already mention that? I mean, and on and on and on. And in every one of those instances, you might disagree, but I sit back and I say, yeah, he said he was going to do that. That's right. He said he was going to do that. And then I get to the J6ers and I say, ooh, hold on a sec. This is new. This is new. As pointed out by the Wall Street Journal in an editorial yesterday or the day before, he expressly said it would be a case-by-case basis. And then some of the reporting this week said that upon reflection, Donald Trump decided, F it, I'm going to cover them all. I'm going to cover them all. I think it's dangerous and a bad precedent and a big mistake. But would it have been defensible if he had excluded the violent? That is the poll question today. And I think that's a good question. I think that's a really good question. Just an additional thought or two, if I might. By the way, please like and subscribe my YouTube channel. And if you'd be so kind as to set up notifications, because I can't always be here at 7:30 on a Saturday and at 8 a.m. on a weekday. So I want you to be notified if I all of a sudden am on at 8 o'clock at night. Set yourself up for the notifications, and then you will be in the loop. As I'm coming on air today, both here on YouTube and also on CNN in a little bit, I'm thrilled about the release of the 4 Israeli soldier hostages. Great news to see the first thing that I see on television this morning is them being handed over to the Red Cross. But and I don't want to be callous with this. I'm thrilled for those 4 female IDF soldiers. But what precedent is being set where it's a 50-to-1 ratio for each of them, and 200 Palestinian prisoners are now going to be released today? That has yet to happen as I'm speaking to you. And I say to myself, what happened to the idea of we don't negotiate with terrorists? Because from the Hamas standpoint, they murdered 1,200 Israelis. They took 200 soldiers. They're now using those 200 soldiers to barter and probably get 1,000. And some of them are bad seeds. And by the way, it's very hard to get information. I'm not sure why this is the case, but it's very hard to get information about who are the Palestinian prisoners. Mostly the foreign press has had details as to who they are, but there's some very bad seeds. So how is this not sending a message to Hamas that they're being rewarded? You killed 1,200, you took hostages, and now you're getting your people back. And Reuters is reporting that since the war began with Israel, between 10 and 15,000 new fighters have been recruited by Hamas. So I'm happy for the families of the 4, and I hope the rest are returned safely, but I'm concerned about the bigger picture. And what else am I going to do today? I'm doing that with Michael Oren, former Israeli ambassador to the United States, and also going to talk about the release of the JFK, RFK, MLK documents with Brad Meltzer, who was a great radio guest yesterday and told us a story about another attempt on John F. Kennedy that doesn't get a lot of attention. Okay, wow, I'm sorry, I went overboard. Please like and subscribe, some thumbs up, some likes. That helps me, that helps the boys at Creative Outfit, that helps us be able to continually get together and me to expand on the poll question of the day. And set yourself up for notifications, please, if you would do that. And last thing, go Birds. Tomorrow should be great football. I hope at the end of tomorrow night, it's like, okay, we've a week respite and then another week, and then it's going to be Eagles and Bills for Super Bowl. I think that would be awesome. Thank you, gang. Have a wonderful day. I'll see you soon, okay? Go vote on the poll question. Would it be defensible if Trump had pardoned all but the violent? All but the violent. That's the question. See ya.